we should indeed keep calm in the face of difference, and live our lives in a state of inclusion and wonder at the diversity of humanity. George Takei. Bending Not Breaking. Pride and the Dragon Prince. Hello everyone! Thanks for listening to another episode of Bending Not Breaking. I am your host, Ben Pruitt, and I have a treat for all of our listeners. We have been working hard behind the scenes to talk to some pretty amazing people in preparation for these episodes, and I am thrilled to finally begin releasing them to all of you. It is Pride Month, and we are celebrating full force by bringing you a lot of Pride content. So over the next couple of weeks, we'll be releasing several episodes with voice actors, writers, and friends of the podcast in which we have discussed our favorite Pride scenes, our favorite ships, moments, headcanons, all of it, all in celebration of Pride Month. So these episodes don't follow the usual routine, but I am certain that you will enjoy them. Some of the recordings were recorded with video, and so for the ones where I have permission, I'm planning on sharing those with our patrons so that our patrons can enjoy watching our facial expressions as well. You can find us on Patreon at bnb_pod, and you can also find us on all the social medias as well, so feel free to check us out there. Thank you so much for listening. We're going to have several that are focused on the Dragon Prince, several episodes that are focused on Avatar. As you heard already today, we are focusing on the Dragon Prince, and I, once again, am just so excited to share these conversations. So without further ado, let's head to our first conversation discussing Pride and the Dragon Prince. I am thrilled to introduce Jesse Inocalla. And you all, if you have been listening to the podcast, will know that Jesse has been on our podcast a few times, and we're thrilled to have him back. But Jesse is here today, and I'll just kind of toss it to him and see how he wants to introduce himself. Jesse, how are you doing today? What's new? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm good. I've been first off, thank you for having me back. Always a pleasure. I've been working, man. I've been just slugging it out here in the voice mines, putting it all together as best I can. Happy Pride to all who celebrate, and to those who don't, you can go fuck yourselves. And yeah, I've just been working it out. I mean, you guys probably know me from the Dragon Prince if you're listening to this. I don't know. Additional credits include My Little Pony, Lost Judgment. I'm in the DLC for that, which is pretty dope.
Super dope.
I don't know. I got other stuff coming out. Follow me on socials to find out. We'll get there later. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, lovely. Again, you mentioned this, but everybody knows Jesse as the voice of Soren on the podcast. So quite lovely to have Jesse join us. It's a kind of a big deal. So I'm really grateful for you and for you taking the time to be present, especially for this episode, which is so important.
Oh, well, my pleasure. I tell people I'm like a vampire. You just need to invite me places and I show up.
once you're invited, all of a sudden he's just in the room and you can't get rid of him.
All your cheese, you know.
Oh man. Well, that's awesome. Well, so we know about you, and we know about Soren, and we've been paying attention. We've watched seasons 1 through 3 about 30 times to this point.
I mean, if you've watched 4 by this point, I'd be real curious as to how you saw it.
Oh, believe me, I can't. If I could pirate it, I would, and then I would continue to watch it on Netflix even as it came out to make sure that y'all got the credit due. But like, it's one of those things where, man, I have been just eagerly on the edge of my seat to, as I imagine many of our listeners have as well.
Oh, me too. Truly, me too. I mean, we've been at it for a while now, and you know, I think Aaron said this on Twitter, so I can say it, that like we finished recording for 4 a while back, and I cannot overstress that the stuff we have coming makes the stuff that's been look like child's play. It's
Oh,
outstanding.
yeah. I think that's what so has me higher anticipation is that's a terrible way to word that phrasing, but I am anticipating this a lot more because how excited all of the voice actors are, how excited Aaron is, and Justin Richmond, everybody on social who has a visual or a clue as to what's going on has all been like, this is gonna be wild. And
Yeah. Oh
so
yeah, we're all going nuts out here trying to keep sitting on our hands to prevent ourselves from saying or doing anything.
yeah, yeah, that's a very similar reaction from our next guest. So I'm really excited to see what's coming. But alas, tell me about. I want to, since we know about you and your relationship with the Dragon Prince. You are a voice on the show.
I
I'm
am.
curious what this space has been like for you. We've been talking about this anticipation and this gearing up for season 4, but I'm curious what does that feel like for you being on the other side of it versus for us who are just viewers, right? What is it like to be on the waiting end on the process side?
Jeez, I mean, it's equal parts nerve-wracking and breathtaking sometimes, you know.
Mm,
I we've been in production for a while now, and we're continuing to record. We've got more stuff on the pipe, and I would be lying if I said that I wasn't a little frustrated by people who were like, "Oh, I thought the show was canceled," or thought the show was over," and I'm like, "Bro, like you can go look. We've issued like a dozen statements at this point, and I know everyone's excited. I'm excited, and I thank the fans, and I am grateful for the fans' ongoing patience and ongoing trust. But yeah, it's nuts. I will occasionally after a record, shoot a DM to one of my co-stars and just shout at them for a while about the episode. Or we did one recently where I was just screaming at Devin via Messenger for like a solid hour and a half about how excited I was for this particular episode. And it's so interesting because coming up and doing voices and acting, it's not often you get to be a part of a project like this.
yeah,
I'm certain other people have said the same as I have, but it feels so. This is a very unique project to be a part of, and I know Jason said this for sure at panels that when we all signed up for this, or when we all got the jobs, I should say, rather than signed up for it, I don't think any of us understood the scope of it at first.
yeah,
And as the reality of that set in, I know the reality for me, I might have said this on an earlier podcast with you, but the reality for me was when I got an email from Justin and Aaron saying, thank you so much for being a part of the show. And I had no idea who they were. So I Googled both of them, and
yeah,
I was like, oh, I was like Troy from Community meeting LeVar Burton. I was just like, oh, big deal.
yeah.
And it's been really lovely, actually, to speak on that because we just recently had the season 4 teaser
Yes, we
trailer
did.
drop. It was so interesting because I was sitting in my trailer for a film and TV project that I was on, and I was like, I had nothing to do. It was a real dead day, and I was just watching the reactions come in, and it was so nice to see how much joy there was in us coming back. We
Yeah,
were always gonna, but it's nice to see the enthusiasm remains.
yeah. Twitter was like a good nonstop for
Oh
several
yeah.
hours.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was really cool to see. Had to go on and off because I had random things that I was doing, but I
Of
definitely
course.
enjoyed the amount and the enthusiasm. And somebody had a mixed tape of the like remixed the song from the trailer within like
Yeah.
a couple hours, and it was fascinating. Yeah.
It's incredible. It's really, really cool. And I've always loved that the Dragon Prince fan base has been, exactly the type of people that I've always wanted to reach with my work. That
Mm,
is to say, primarily, a younger, progressive, queer, like accepting, just just blob
yeah,
people.
you're here.
And it's really lovely that they're here and they're standing up with us.
Yeah, and I like that's a beautiful segue kind of to my next I'm terrible today.
I
Question.
get it. I get it. It's a Sagittarius moon or something.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
think it might be.
Mercury in retrograde, maybe.
Astrology nerds, don't correct me.
Yeah, me either. But you mentioned the audience that
Yes.
you've kind of wanted to reach. And so this episode that we are recording for is about Pride, and we're here to celebrate Pride. And I'm curious, what is your relationship with Pride, and what does it what does that word mean to you, and what is the connotation, and what does it carry? And just opening that up for
Of
however you
course.
interpret it.
Of course. Well, I've never been particularly open about my sexuality on Twitter or anything. And, I generally don't believe the specifics are anybody's business but my own and the people I choose to share it with. But the closest I've come to is I'm bisexual. I have been for, well, forever. It's life. That's what it is. And I've only recently started being more vocal about it. And that has come from, a number of places, be it a place of, growing up in the 80s and 90s, man.
Yeah, I hear you. Very much
So,
so.
It's a big part of it. But also, I think, it's something that's just always been a part of me that I've
Mm,
never really, felt the need to expound on.
yeah.
And as I've seen more and more that, like, not to get too dour about it, but the ongoing attacks on, trans youth and trans people in the United States and Britain, and hopefully not Canada, we'll see. And what that generally means in the history books, I
Yeah.
feel the need to be more vocal and to
Yeah.
take as much of a stand as I feel like I can, and you know support as many of the, maybe support's the wrong word, but be as be as vocal a supporter as I can be
Hmm.
of people who are seeking more justice than I need.
Love
Maybe
it.
that's a good way to phrase it.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. And I think that especially for people who are often identify either as bi or as pan or have this queer mixture where you kind of also fit into the straight trope
Hmm.
if people are paying attention or if people are rather not paying attention, that it's often easier to just pass as straight
Totally.
until needing, right? And that's a really tough act to kind of navigate because there's this like, well, I can pass and it's comfortable to do that because I don't have to deal with people's bull. But
Yeah.
there's also this more and more of a need to be present, be vocal, and show
Yeah.
solidarity by um, marking ourselves.
For sure. For sure. Well, and my partner's pan, and we present as a straight couple, which is, that's just how things have worked out in the wash. But we're a queer couple in our 30s, dude. Like,
Yep.
it's 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 something that we're trying. Well, I'm trying. She's always been very vocal, but I'm trying to be more vocal about, because otherwise I'm just like I appear as a cis straight guy,
Yeah,
and I'm two of those things, cis and guy.
absolutely. Well, that's wonderful. And this kind of sets us up and tees us up for the importance of animation, and not
Mhm.
just animation, but media in general, that has representation, and not always it's not always confirmed or canon, but sometimes it's very much in our head canon. But that said, there's a lot of really beautiful moments in the Dragon Prince that are canon. So
There are. Boy, are there.
I'm curious, as we're going to kind of tee this off into the bulk of our conversation, which is, what's a moment for you in the Dragon Prince that, or a moment, a scene, a ship for you in the Dragon Prince that really kind of shouts pride to you, and that when you think of pride, you think of this moment?
Man, I can't talk about my ships without getting in trouble again. But
There.
I would say, well, I mean, anybody who looks at my Twitter or knows me, especially Jason Simpson, will know that I am a big Viravos guy. I think Viren and Harrow are really cute together too.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't speak to any of that, but I would say, because I'm nobody involved there. I think, like, because I've been thinking about this question since you asked me about it, Ben, and that is to say before the podcast, not just now. And I have kind of one moment, which I'm sure is going to be a popular one, but it kind of branches off into the greater schema of existing as a queer person within the universe of the Dragon Prince.
Yeah.
And that is the Queens of Durin kissing before they're killed by not Ozymandias, Thunder. Anyway, I tried to go with his dragon name, but I couldn't remember it. And the reason why that really sticks out to me is, I mean, I am no fan of rulers of any measure.
Yeah.
But I do recognize that, this is a universe where two women, not only two women, but a multiracial couple,
That's right.
get to not only have this moment to celebrate their love in the face of certain doom,
Yeah.
but there are songs sung about them. There are statues built to them.
Yeah.
They are revered as a same-sex couple. And I guess why and how this spins off for me is, something that I spoke to the writer's room at one point about, various characters and various sexualities. I mean, certainly not my own, certainly not my characters. Why would I ask about that?
Never once, no.
No, of course, never. And the general answer I got back, pardon me, and it's one I really appreciated, was that the thought of being discriminatory based on who someone is attracted to within the world created that is Catullus and Zadia. The human kingdoms in Zadia. I don't know what the overarching term is. I don't know if there is one. Is unheard of.
Yeah.
The fact that it doesn't really matter. You can label yourself as, gay or a lesbian or bi or pan or whatever, or ace, but you're not. It's not seen as a point of contention.
Yeah.
Within the universe, and certainly no characters seem to treat it that way, which I think is really beautiful. And I mean, I'm so careful. I have to be really careful about what I say. Yeah, I don't. It's never a sticking point. It's truly never a sticking point for anybody. And I mean, I think that's really beautiful.
So I want to be.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ben.
I was going to say, I want to be clear that
Yes,
the care with which you are speaking is about revealing things that you aren't allowed to reveal yet, versus care
Yes,
with which. Yeah. Okay, because I'm also wondering, because this is a conversation that also there's a lot of care that a lot of times people feel the need to bring to conversations where we're talking about queer identity, right, and sexual orientation, and that could definitely merit this like urge and need to feel the care as well. So I just want to be respectful, make sure I'm interpreting that the
Oh
right
no,
way.
no, no, yeah, yeah. I'm trying to be careful about my professional obligations.
Yeah.
But I can say that the the writers' room on the show is very diverse, and I mean, Devin Gale's leading it now, and she's outstanding. She's a queer woman, and she's absolutely brilliant at her job.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact that they take the utmost care when dealing with, you know, sexual identities or things of that like.
Yeah.
And knowing that and seeing how far it goes on the show. Even something as simple. I know Devin had a note once that she told us all about, and she speaks about quite publicly, that she would get boards back from the animation studio
Mhm.
of just backgrounds, right? And it would be, couples in the background holding hands or whatever. And she would occasionally send a note back to be all like, make at least half of these same-sex couples.
Yes.
Just because, for whatever reason, for whatever whoever was doing the backgrounds that day was like, oh yeah, they're probably straight couples, and Devin was like, no, 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 that fix please.
Yeah. Well, and I think often what it is it may not be even an intentional thing, like, oh, these are probably straight couples. It's, oh, these are just couples,
Yeah,
right?
well, that's the thing, right?
Right?
It's because that is what society has conditioned us to see.
Precisely.
We see a man and a woman standing together or sitting next to each other on a fucking plane, for Christ's sake,
You're here.
and they think that they're a couple or that they're husband and wife, or
Yep.
they're dating at least.
I mean, talk about like if we want to get into real like conditioning, talk about kiss cams at sporting
Oh
events,
boy.
right? Like it's talk about like how awkward and terrifying that is, frankly, that you put two what may be strangers on a kiss cam and they feel this obligation to kiss one another.
Oh my God, yeah,
And
absolutely. And they
I
may have no
yeah,
idea who the other person is.
exactly. And so there's like this weird expectation that like, oh, it's totally okay, it's harmless, and I'm like,
I don't
whoa,
think I don't
chill.
think it is.
And then it's always a straight couple.
Yeah,
And so I think that that's just another way that we just see this conditioning happen, and that
for
people
sure.
don't think twice about
Yeah,
until someone who's not straight says something,
yeah,
or someone who's been harmed by that says something.
for sure. I mean, not when it needs to be, stripping away all of the societal, patriarchal, cis heteronormative conditioning. I think is something that is really, first off, I would say is integral to the progress of civil rights and a civil society.
Here, here.
But I would also say, some of the first steps that we can make towards that are in our media portrayals.
Bingo. This is why I'm having this conversation. Yeah.
Well, and like, it's simple, small things, It's,
Yep.
it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't need to be I don't know, Robin on season 3 of Strange. I'm rewatching Stranger Things, so bear
Hmm.
with me. But Robin on season 3 of Stranger Things making a big deal out of, confessing to Steve that she's gay,
Yeah.
which I think is beautiful. I love Maya Hawke. I love Robin as a character. I think it was a really well done scene, and I think it's an important scene to have.
Yeah.
But I also think it can be little things. It can be, the background couples in your show not all being heteronormative.
Yep.
It can be, I mean, it could be letting two fucking X-wing pilots kiss without pivoting immediately to a gross slug monster.
It could be.
It could be for Disney's next first canonically gay character.
Yeah.
But it takes small teams that have the courage to do that,
Yeah.
where there's not going to be some ancient bigwig at the top being upset that his movie isn't going to play in I don't know. No, I don't want to pick on. I like a lot of the southern states. I feel bad. I mean, I was gonna say like a rural Kentucky audience, but I
Sure.
know people from rural Kentucky and they're very lovely. I have family there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean like Saudi Arabia or China or
Yeah.
places that are still have much more regressive laws regarding same-sex partnerships.
Yeah. Like Florida. Don't say.
Well, yes. Okay, Florida. I can work with Florida. My mom's from there. I can take a piss on it. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, and again, like
Regressive
it's
dictatorship.
so
Go ahead.
pervasive, right? It's not just Florida, right? That's just an example of a much larger problem.
Well,
Um,
that's what it is. Like I don't not to get too political on the Pride episode,
for sure.
but I think that there's a generalized lack, not even a lack of courage, but a willful ignorance of the desires and the needs of the people at large in most quote unquote Western democracies.
Yeah.
And I think that that is beholden to a lot of very rich, very old people who do not want to give up the amount of power and wealth they have.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I want to dive just a little bit
Yeah,
deeper
please, please.
into this moment that you're picking and
Yeah,
what that kind of has offered you in particular.
sure.
So you see these lovely queens who are revered and there are statues of them and they're an interracial couple and that's something that sounded important to you. And I'm curious, when you saw them on screen or when you've kind of interacted with fans about this scene, I'm curious, like what does it make you feel literally when you kind of are thinking about that?
I think my first reaction to it is a beautiful scene with a moment that allows these two warriors. They are set as warrior queens.
Yeah.
And there's such a disconnect in a lot of, again, Western democracies about um about like sex or romance or even intimacy versus war and strength and fighting, right? Like
Yeah.
you'll fucking The Expendables, which has so much
Yep.
death, was a PG-13 film, but you can't show two consenting adults having sex on screen without it being an R or an NC-17.
Yep.
And I think it's really, really interesting and really beautiful. And I certainly found it really interesting and really beautiful that the team picked these two very strong, well established warrior queens to have this really beautiful, really gentle, tender moment
Yeah.
in the midst of absolute horror.
Yeah.
And,
Mm.
I mean, not a lot of people talk to me as, for Soren, for like the Queens of Durin. But I just think it's such a beautiful, impactful moment
Yeah.
that, really, really sets a precedent for a lot of what we see, or if it did not set a precedent, it really made that precedent front and center.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That, it doesn't matter who, it doesn't matter who you love,
Mm.
or if it does matter who you love, it matters to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe that's not the most eloquent way of phrasing it, but
No, and I think that it's not just this couple that does that. I think that Runan and Athari do that as
oh
well.
my God,
Like
yeah.
that, there's a massive, like huge social media
Oh
following
boy,
for
is there? And
for
I love it.
them. And it's incredible. Like Viravos, notwithstanding, right, it has a huge following as well. But Runan and Athari, because it's canon, is like there's so much available for you to kind of dive into not just fanfics, but also just fan art to just all these random tweets that are just about it. And it has created this subculture, right? Where what we have so often seen in media is queer baiting, where we're going to hint at this, but we're not going to give it to you. We're going to pretend this is true, but we're not going to confirm it.
Yeah.
And what we've done with the Dragon Prince, and I say what y'all have done with the Dragon Prince is it's confirmed. It's this part of canon where people can no longer question this. It's not Schrodinger's cat where it is both true and not true because it's in our head canon, but not really confirmed. This is something that is real. It is visible. And that kind of visibility makes a massive, massive difference into the capacity to fantasize about what could be. It gives people hope. It's foundational. And so I am just so thankful for queer icons like these two pairs that we're talking about.
For sure.
Not to mention,
and,
ones in our head canon.
There's a tiny little throwaway in one of which was my backup in case somebody had said the Queens, but I'm going to mention it now, and someone else can bring this up if they want, and they can fight me for it. But there's a tiniest little throwaway line that I fucking love. It's when I think it's the same episode actually, where Harrow and Sarai are in the royal bedchambers, and Harrow tells Sarai about this dream he was having about Lady Justice, and Sarai's like, "Oh, what was she wearing?" or whatever, and Harrow's like, "Oh, she was draped in this beautiful gown," and Sarai's like, "Oh, so a boring dream then." And I mean, I don't know. Of course, again, I cannot speak to it for any purpose outside of being a fan, but I love that little hint of just like, oh yeah, that's cool. I'm into it.
So just to be clear, for you, that is hinting towards Sarai being like, I mean, women are pretty cool.
I think so.
Yeah.
To me, and again, this is only to me. I cannot speak for any canon. That speaks to Sarai being, at very least, bi or pan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. I think it's cute that it's just a moment, because I don't spend my whole day going around like, hello, bisexual, good to meet you. Hello, bisexual, pleasure to meet you.
Yeah.
But I have no problem with, fun little offhand remarks like that, or little stuff that is true to life.
Yep. Yeah.
And
Wow.
that's not to say that I feel any sort of, negative way towards people who are very out and loud about their sexuality or anything. I'm certainly not. I am in full support of celebrating however someone wants to celebrate.
Yeah.
However the fuck they want to celebrate, by all means. But for me, I've always been, more reserved, more to myself, and that's just how I do.
Yeah. I think often, and again, I'm not like calling on all of this data, but
No, of course.
this is more my anecdotal evidence that I have been able to witness and be a part of, is thinking about how it is often easier for people who are, again, able to straight pass.
Yeah. Oh boy.
To hide a little bit more and to not feel the need to be loud and proud, so to speak, because there's less of a compulsion, because there's this ability to not need to. And it's in a way that's like this weird, like really hard to navigate space of balancing the privilege of being able to pass straight, but also I feel the resentment, anger, and fear that is attached to being queer in this world, while also having this like little bit of a privilege shield. And that almost creates this whole other world of internal struggle that is really difficult for people who are in that space. Because it's very freeing to be loud and proud in a way, just like it is, like having that mask on of passing is like that. It's a mask of like, I'm able to do this, but that's just because you don't know me very well. Right?
Well, I compare it almost to, like, I'm biracial as well. A lot of bis here. And for the longest time, I think we spoke about this a million years ago, that, when I was auditioning coming up, I wouldn't correct people on the pronunciation of my last name. I wouldn't, I wouldn't be so openly Filipino, for lack of better phrasing,
Yeah.
because, I I'm kind of ethnically ambiguous in the terminology of the film and television industry. And I mean, fortunately, that term is falling more and more out of favor. But for the longest time, and I mean, I could go on for hours about how, my own generational trauma with regards to being Filipino can come from, various old colonization wounds and
Yeah, absolutely.
the ongoing influence of the Catholic Church on the Philippines, and even in my own life growing up Catholic and blah 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 blah
Yep.
blah. But yeah, like it's it. I would never claim to have any sort of uh, well, any worse issues than anybody else, and certainly there are loads of people who have it a lot worse than I do.
Yeah.
But there's truth to what you're saying, that it's a different path to navigate, is maybe the best way I can think of to phrase it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Requires a different set of maps.
Yeah. It's different, right? And so, whew, wow. So we've got a lot that we've been able to kind of parse out. We've got Sarai being coding potentially as bi and or pan and or queer.
I think she is anyway.
Yeah, sure. No, I love it.
Wrong, but I think she is.
Yeah, we have the.
I mean, I also think Harrow is, but I think all of them are.
Yeah, there is a lot more coding in for these characters that and maybe that points to just uh the fact that our brains are often coded towards like the spectrum of male to female, and realizing that it's not a spectrum from male to female. It's like that's a unfair way to create a binary. And what we're seeing in this show is it's kind of break that trope and that expectation. And so that kind of throws off all of our coding. We're like, wait a second.
And you have no idea how much I want to talk about stuff that's coming with you saying that, but I cannot watch the show.
Believe me, you are not the only person to have hinted this to me. So I'm excited to see where it goes. With that in mind, I want to kind of point us towards our kind of next segment, which is our kind of final segment for today, which is gratitude. We'd like to end our episodes with our content with gratitude. And you might pick a character that is not affiliated with the scenes you've picked, and you might pick someone that is. But thinking about, in light of our conversation today,
yes,
who is a character that you are thankful for in the Dragon Prince that I will pause there. Who's a thankful that you're thankful for? Character that you're thankful for?
Okay. This is tricky. I have a few. Okay. Can I name an actor on the show?
I mean, I'm not going to say no. That sounds cool.
And I'm sorry, because this is going to be a big tease, and I'm not sorry. Who the fuck am I kidding? I am very thankful for Ben Callens, who has joined the cast of the show in a role that I have no desire to discuss. But Ben is incredibly lovely. We got on like a house on fire when we first met, and I'm really happy he's in the show. I'm really thankful for his presence on the show, and I think that he's gonna just, he's gonna be really wonderful in what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of gratitude towards him for taking the job, for starts.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also, just for being a good friend, for being a good dude.
Oh, I'm so excited to learn more about Ben. We have interacted on social media, and he has indicated that he will be interested in joining for a specific episode once season 4 comes out. So hopefully,
I know what he's talking about.
Yeah, hopefully we can get him on if he's still interested once that happens. But I appreciate your gratitude. Yeah, that's lovely. Wow. Well, Jesse, today has been such a gift. I feel like we have been able to kind of parse out some of the things that some of the impacts of seeing these things on not just us, but being able to kind of see how that have disseminated into the fandom and to people who have seen this show and how much of a difference it makes. And so thank you for one, being a part of something that's so important to so many people, but also for joining us today and having this conversation and being open with this group of people that are listening.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. As always, it's a pleasure. It's always lovely to chat with you, Ben. So I'm always happy to show up. But yeah, this is I said it before in this episode. This is a very special. There's a lot about this show that's very special to me. I mean, for one, being on it and the scenes and the writing and all that. But a big part of it, and a big part of what's always been special to me about the show, is the fans. And I was, I think I said this before too, but man, I was so fucking scared when I first got it and I realized how big a deal it was.
Oh, wow.
I was just like, oh shit. Like, because I never watched Voltron, but I watched the fandom react to Voltron.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh fuck, I gotta be really careful. I gotta watch my ass at every turn. And I'm so glad to see that was just my anxiety talking in so many ways.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we will continue to pleasantly wait. And, it's one of those things where one of my favorite books has had 2 books out for like 10 years and there's a 3rd book coming and it's been coming for 10 years. Okay. And it's a similar process to the Dragon Prince where people are starting to like hate the author and be like, I'm never going to read it because it's not worth it. And, there are some people who are complaining about how long it's taken. I'm like, y'all, this is just a gift, right? It's like waiting for that box that's going to come in the mail when it's coming. It's like, it's going to get here. It's going to be here. It's like, but seriously, part of the joy that comes from anticipation is not getting the box. It's the waiting and the engaging with the fandom over this and experiencing this with each other and realizing that this is a community experience. And I think we are blessed in a way to have this amount of time to wait.
I was a big Game of Thrones fan.
Okay.
Before the TV show.
Oh.
And then the show came out, and I was like, "Oh, this could be cool."
Yeah.
And then and I enjoyed it for the first few seasons, and then the show started outpacing the book, and I was like, "Oh, I wonder what they're gonna do," because I know George R.R. Martin was, at least consulting on it.
Yeah.
So I had to assume some of the stuff was what he planned. And as I was going through, I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll work with that." And then it got to the last season, and I was like, "This is dog shit."
Yeah.
This is absolute horse shit, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why anybody wanted any of that. And I'm so glad HBO hasn't bought the rights to the Dragon Prince to finish it.
Right.
But, I mean, that might actually be really cool. But Benioff and Weiss, anyway, they can go suck eggs. But yeah, man, like I always think be real careful what you wish for sometimes, because I wanted Winds of Winter and I got it.
But not the way you wanted.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. I would so much rather have it when it is supposed to be released than.
Yeah. I don't mind waiting. I'll probably end up reading the final books when they come out still.
Yeah.
But the TV show, it was so interesting. It killed all hype I had for the books for a really long time.
Yeah.
And it's still basically dead, but I might be interested in picking it up when it comes back.
Well, if we've learned anything, the Dragon Prince is not taking that tax. So
we are back, and we are back strong.
Yeah. Well, once again, this has been incredible. I will reach out, I'm sure, once season 4 drops. We'll probably try and hit it pretty quickly, knowing how fast people consume it. So,
oh boy, yeah.
No matter what, you are a blessing on the world, and we are grateful for you. And
that's fine too.
I mean, it is what it is.
I still appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, with that in mind, thanks to everybody who's listening. And until next time, be well and do good.